And I invite you to join me now in a time of meditation and prayer, followed by a shared silence. Rest comfortably in your seat. Let your gaze soften or eyes close. Breathe deep and feel your feet connecting you to this good earth. I worry that adults don't throw things enough. Kids are always throwing things. Balls, frisbees, marbles, and jacks, not to mention cups, bowls, spoons, Cheerios, rocks, sticks, and water balloons. After an hour watching our friend's toddler, it would appear that nothing is more fascinating than seeing what will happen when an object is dropped or thrown. In the deep unconscious reaches of memory, you might recall those early experiments with gravity. And if you go deep enough or let your imagination run wild enough, perhaps you can recall what it was like to not know what would happen as you grab and release whatever is in reach. Even now, I find myself amazed by the power of forces unseen as I stand on the green grass, twist back, then snap my arm out to release the disc. As I watch it soaring away from my hand, twisting and turning seemingly with a mind of its own, I am reminded once again of the limits of my influence. Feeling the satisfying throb in my shoulder, letting me know I've really been doing the hard work of letting go. I pick the disc up and hurl it once more, grunting as I send with it the day's disappointments, worries, and frustrations. With a disc in our hand or simply our imagination and an open heart, may we each let go of whatever it is that weighs on us, flinging it with abandon to be dealt with by the unseen forces of the universe. May the silence we have shared continue to hold and heal us all. May it be so, and amen.
Our partner church, First Unitarian, is on Winton Road in Rochester, and across the street from the church is Temple Bethel. And a couple of weeks ago, there were cars lined all the way from the church way down to Highland, which is 3 or 4 blocks away, along with our entire parking lot filled as well. And all those cars were there because it was the high holy days of the Jewish calendar, which starts with Rosh Hashanah and ends with Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is about this idea of forgiveness. And the service of Yom Kippur starts with what is known as the Kol Nidra. It's a very haunting melody. It's sung. The Kol Nidra is concerned with the importance of the promises of human behavior, and I want to share with you how one congregation starts the Yom Kippur service with these words. Forebears understood the need for escape clauses in human intentions. For despite good intentions, all of us make promises that we can't keep. How many of us has fulfilled all that we have vowed? Who among us has not broken a heartfelt promise? Therefore, hear these words. May we hereby forgive those who have hurt us, whether deliberately or by accident, as we forgive and pardon fully those who have wronged us. May those whom we have harmed in any way also forgive and pardon us. And may we not willfully repeat the wrongs we have committed in the past. May tolerance and justice light our days. May tolerance and justice light our world. Escape clauses indeed. Who of us doesn't need them? I know I do. And notice I say who of us doesn't need them rather than who of us doesn't need to offer them. Because as we all know, forgiveness is not just for the sake of the offender, but it's for our own sake. And if being a people of letting go means anything, it certainly means remembering this. When we are stuck in our understandable but single-minded focus on whether someone deserves to be forgiven, we need to remember that forgiveness isn't just a gift we give to those who hurt us, but it's a gift that we give ourselves. We need to remember that it's not simply about giving offenders a kind of get-out-of-jail-free card, but it's also, and maybe even more importantly, about our freedom, about freeing our hands and our hearts for things that open us up instead of kind of shut us down. Rabbi Harold Kushner, a long time ago, wrote a book called Why Bad Things Happen to Good People. I don't know if any of you have ever read it throughout the years, but it's a great book. And in it, he tells this story about this woman that came to see him for counseling, and she was recently divorced, and she had 3 young children that she was left with. She was very angry through this counseling meeting, and she became furious with Kushner because he had suggested along the line that she needed to forgive her ex-husband, an ex-husband who had left her with 3 kids and also was kind of playing unethical tactics along with custody, and he didn't want to pay any of the money. So she, in this counseling session, kind of says to Kushner, since my husband walked out on us, every month is a struggle to pay the bills. I have to tell my kids there's no money to even go to things like movies, which, by the way, he is living in another state and living it up with his wife. How can you tell me to forgive him? How can you even dare to suggest such a thing? And Kushner says to her, I'm not asking you to forgive him because what he did was acceptable. It's not at all. It was cruel and selfish. No, I'm asking you to forgive him because he doesn't deserve the power to live in your head and turn you into a bitter, angry woman. I'd like to see him out of your life emotionally as much as he is out of your life physically. But you actually keep holding on to him. Look at what you've been doing all these years. You've been living in Massachusetts, holding on to a hot coal, waiting for him to walk by so you can throw it at him. Meanwhile, he's living in your state, having a great time, and all you're left with is a hot coal in your hand. I love about that story is so much, but it helps us see that forgiveness is not just a matter of kind of restoring justice, it's also the presence of kind of recovering oneself. We do well, I think, to remember that actually the literal translation and meaning of the word forgiveness means to give up, not to make right. Carl Jung, the great psychologist, said, forgiveness is giving up all hope of ever having a better past. Let me say it again. Forgiveness is giving up all hope of ever having a better past. I know that sounds a little depressing at first blush, but that's not really what Carl Jung was after, really. He was just trying to get us to locate hope in the right place. For him, as for Kushner, real hope lies not really in trying endlessly to fix the past, but in freeing ourselves from it, in letting go of the past. So that's why a number of years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, when I do services around forgiveness, not that at First Unitarian I had rocks on everybody's chair. And I gave them away and told people that I want you to take that piece of what weighs you down. If you think about the resent and bitterness you have for people, it's kind of weighing you down as if in your pocket. I want you to go somewhere, take the rock, and let it go. Let it rest there instead of on your heart. Just purge yourself of it. Throw it in a quarry and let that release kind of purge you of your resent. You could go out to a stream or anything that would allow you to quit having your hand get burnt. No matter how you get rid of it, I would like you to do it as an act of forgiveness to open you up, actually, to release you from that weight. Forgive for the sake, not of others necessarily, but really for your own sake. So after I did that sermon, I had a couple of weeks went by, and I'd have people come and say, "Oh, Kaaren, I went on this great walk, and I got to this meadow, and I really thought about that person, and I just let it go." And it was the first time kind of that I had this release of weight. And I was feeling so good at metaphor. I was like doing a little dance. I did good work. Until. And there's always an until. I get in a car of a parishioner, and I'm in the car, and on her dashboard is this rock. And I said, "Why do you have a rock on your dashboard?" And she says, "Well, you gave it to me, Kaaren. It was during Yom Kippur, and I was supposed to let it go." I said, "That was 2 years ago." And she says, "I know, but I'm having a hard time letting go of it." And I said, "Well, do you have somebody in your life that, really is heavy on you that you need to forgive?" She goes, "Yeah, and I'm bitter and resentful too." Okay. I said, "Well, I don't understand why you're holding on to that whole weight, why you can't just kind of move it off. 2 years?" She said, "I can't. No matter how hard I try, I get close, but I can't do it." That getting close, I just can't do it, has weighed on me for a long time. Has confounded me ever since. Until I heard this story of a wise woman I know, who also couldn't let go release. This wise woman knows, as well as my friend, that not forgiving was doing more harm than good to herself, but she still couldn't do it. So this wise woman, I'm going to call her Sue, grew up in a household with a father who had a temper, a father who was rigid and judgmental. Now, he also was other good things, as are all of us, right? He had good things that he had about, but in her adulthood, she riled against him for passing on those bad things all the time. Why couldn't he have done the work, she felt like, the emotional work, to not be rigid and angry herself? Why couldn't he have done all of it so that she actually might trust men a little better than she did? And through her adult life, despite the good of her father, she couldn't forgive him for dumping his crap, as she called it, onto her, which made her have to work doubly hard and go to double the therapy that she wanted to go to. She loved her father. She really did, but she couldn't kind of let go of this way of being because she felt like he had passed it on to her. And then her dad died. And her aunt and uncle, her dad's siblings, told stories at the memorial and when they were in family gatherings about her dad. And it turns out that her dad had been beaten by his father very badly. And these two younger siblings had great admiration for her dad because he was the one who stood between them and other children. And they felt like that he was a great survivor because he never hurt his children the same way that generations had done beforehand. He was the one actually who had stopped everything. And they saw him as not only being their hero, but the person that allowed them to have a good childhood. And then it hit my friend Sue. She had been holding on to something, this grudge and resent, without really knowing the full story. Without knowing that in many ways he had done the best that he could with what he had. Given his past, he had moved actually quite far away and grown in emotional health much more so than she ever had thought before. And it wasn't until she had that fullness of the story from her aunt and uncle that she indeed could finally let go and forgive her father and love him fully. I said it before, but I want you to listen to it again. Carl Jung said, "Forgiveness is giving up all hope of ever having a better past." Real hope is not in trying endlessly to fix the past, but in freeing ourselves from it. A letting go of the past that isn't serving you, potentially restores you, sometimes in little ways, and sometimes in really big ways, which sometimes comes through that release, kind of the letting go of something. But other times, you get there by understanding the fullness of a story and letting that in. The fullness of the pieces and the parts that we always don't know about. And really, we are so good as human beings at seeing partial stories in people. My friend isn't really the only one. We often, more than we want to, think the partial story is the full story. We look at our neighbor's happy family and their perfect kids, and we don't see how they wrestle with generational addiction behind closed doors. We see the surface of the water, how beautiful that ice is up there, reflecting, but not the giant iceberg obscured underneath the deep blue-green water. We see the stress and anxiety of our coworker who is edgy and kind of fragile at work, but don't know about the iceberg of care for elderly parents who she keeps right below the water's surface, a mixture of shame and pride that holds them beholden to her meager salary. Truth is, we can't ever know the breadth of people's lives, even those in our immediate family, even those we think we know everything about. We just don't. And more often than not, I've found everyone has that piece to their story, has more to their story than what you see right in front of you. If anything I have learned in the ministry in 20 years is knowing that everybody's story is far more complicated and complex than what you see. And we often don't even want to share that with one another because what we see is the top of the iceberg piece. But the truth is, if we really could get to that piece of carrying all of that, we could get to that piece of offering up forgiveness by letting in that fullness of the story. I've been thinking that perhaps what we need actually is a better metaphor than that letting go. And I came across a story that kind of gets to this. It's a story of two men who are traveling over the Persian mountains, Musa and Nagib. And they are traveling along and they get to a stream that has a sandy bank and a tree there, and they're tired, so they get off their camels and they sit underneath the tree. And while they're there, they're having this discussion with each other, and soon enough it gets angry and frustrating between them, and they have an argument, and Nagib slaps his friend Musa across the face. Now Musa is sitting there thinking, wow, that stings, and I'm really angry. But he thinks to himself, my friend is someone that I care about a lot, and I almost got to the same point that he did. So I must take that in. I don't want to fight with him. So Musa goes over to the tree and he finds a stick and he writes into the sand, my best friend slapped me. And Nagib gets up and walks over next to him and looks at what he wrote in the sand. And the two of them watch as the wind kind of takes away that sand and moves it and those words right along with it. And by that time, actually, Nagib had offered his apology already. So these two friends, they travel on and they go into the city, then they come back, and they travel through the same way. And while they've been gone, it has rained and rained, and it turns out that the river is higher and swifter. And instead of resting this time, they want to go into the water and swim for a little bit. So Musa gets in the water, but soon he's pulled like by a kind of riptide piece, and he is struggling to survive, and he's kind of thrashing around. And Nagib gets in the water full on and grabs his friend by the arm and pulls him in, and the two of them sit on the sand for a while Musa regains his breath. And as he does, he regains his breath, he goes over to the camel and he takes out a knife. And he walks over to the stream, and there is a big rock, and on the big rock he carves into it, "My best friend saved me." Now Nagib is there with him, and he looks at his friend and he says, what's that all about? When I hurt you, you wrote it in the sand, but when I saved you, you wrote it in stone. And Nagib says, when someone hurts you, we should write it down in sand where the winds of forgiveness can erase it away. This way our hearts are free from bitterness and we can renew our friendships. But when someone does something unkind to us, something kind to us, rather, we must engrave it in stone and engrave it on our heart so that we never forget. I love that story. It's a great way to think about forgiveness, as having less of a weight on you and a much kind of lighter approach, so that forgiveness actually is something continually moving through your life. Which is why I'd like us to be Musa today. Underneath your chair, you have a little plate with some sand. I invite you to dump the sand out on the plate. I want you to take a deep breath with me. Just sit for a moment. Who is it that you need to write into that sand? Whose name needs to go there? Who is it that you need to let go of? Who is it that you need to forgive that you may not know the fullness of that story? Whoever it is, I invite you to write it in the sand right now. When you came in, you had a stone on your chair. Hopefully you didn't sit on it, but could you take it out and hold on to it for a minute, please? In the story, Musa writes the name of his friend's kindness into the stone. Such a beautiful image. We far too often think of kindness more like sand than stone, something that washes over you or falls through your fingers. And yet, when you ask people about kindness, when they tell stories of kindness done to them, more often than they are substantial, rock-like remembrances that serve kind of as that foundation to their softening towards humankind. What I love about it reminds us that letting go is ironically about holding tight. That the only way we can let go of the hurts done to us is by remembering and holding on tight to the goodness offered by those very same jerks. Because that's the thing, right? Sure, there are some people who are just mean and nasty people, but they're not usually the ones that hook all of us. Usually our main conundrum has to do with the people who are closer to us and who are, well, mixed, as are all of us. They are people who have done wrong and done us wrong, and at the same time they've done right by us and done right. The reason we get tangled up in anger at them and put distance between us and them is because we can't seem to hold on to the good and the bad together. And thus we write the meanness in the stone, and we write the kindness in the sand. And so I think actually the story offers us a great gift to flip the metaphor. Instead of seeing us task of letting go of rocks and resent that hold us down, let's see the task of injecting their goodness into that stone. So your mission, if you choose to accept it, is just this. In order to let go, I'm asking you to hold on. The next time you have to be around that brother or friend that can hurt you more than heal you, I want you to hold on to the stone and remind you of his goodness, his kindness as well. The next time you have a coworker who can bring you to the breaking point of either anger or tears, and they push all of your buttons, I want you to go back to your desk and grab that stone and hold on to it. And remember that that coworker is the person that can make you laugh harder than almost anybody else you know. Remember to let go. Let it serve as your anchor, that rock. Hold on to let go. A couple of weeks ago, my husband, Scott, who you all know, well, not all of you, but my husband, wrote a letter to a dying friend. And in the letter, he wrote him this: I'm not sure that you remember, but I called you kind once. You thanked me, but resisted. I found it curious, and I asked you why, and you didn't want to elaborate. You just said, that's a big word. It made me like you even more. Kindness, it's a big word. It's as big and as heavy as forgiveness, maybe bigger. Friends, may you hold on to kindness to let go. May kindness in all its infinite weight and girth serve as your strength and as your anchor. May it be so. I love you. Amen.
Touch a hand. Let us be connected. And join with me in saying our closing words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Amen.
Join us for worship every Sunday at 10 a.m. at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Canandaigua, a welcoming congregation. We are located at 3024 Cooley Road, 4 miles west of South Main Street, Canandaigua, just north of the intersection with Routes 5 and 20. Look for the blue signs just before the turn. Your comments about this program or questions about the church are welcome at 585-396-1370 or at our website, www.canandaiguauu.org. Producer and editor, Daniel Brigham.